On December 8, 1994, a Mexican neuroscientist walked into his laboratory at the National Autonomous University of Mexico and never walked out. His name was Dr. Jacobo Grinberg Zilberbaum. But here's what makes this disappearance different from any other missing person case you've ever heard. 3 weeks before he vanished, Dr. Grinberg told his closest colleague something that would haunt everyone who knew him. He said, and I quote, "I've seen it. The code. We're not observing reality. We're creating it. And they know I know." Who are they? We'll get to that. But first you need to understand what Dr. Grinberg discovered. Because in 1994, the same year he disappeared, he published a paper that would make the CIA's most classified documents. A paper that proved something the government desperately wanted to keep secret. He proved that two human brains could communicate without any physical connection. No phones, no signals, nothing. Just pure consciousness, connected through what he called the lattice. And here's where it gets disturbing. In 2017, when the CIA declassified thousands of documents related to their secret Stargate program, a program designed to weaponize psychic abilities, Dr. Grinberg's name appeared multiple times, the same year he vanished. Coincidence? By the end of this video, you'll know why that's impossible. Because what I'm about to show you will fundamentally change how you see reality itself. Dr. Jacobo Grinberg wasn't some fringe researcher working in his basement. He was a brilliant neuroscientist with a PhD in psychophysiology from the Brain Research Institute in New York. After studying the electrophysiological effects of geometric stimuli on the human brain, he returned to Mexico in the late 1970s with a mission. A mission that would eventually cost him everything. He founded multiple psychophysiology laboratories, including one at UNAM, Mexico's most prestigious university. By 1987, he had established the National Institute for the Study of Consciousness, funded by the Mexican government. He published over 50 books, translated into 7 languages, and wrote numerous peer-reviewed papers that challenged everything we thought we knew about reality. But Dr. Grinberg was different from other neuroscientists in one crucial way. He didn't just study consciousness in sterile laboratories. He went deep into the mountains of Mexico to study indigenous shamans. And one shaman in particular would change the entire trajectory of his research. Her name was Pachita. Pachita, whose real name was Barbara Guerrero, was known throughout Mexico for performing impossible surgeries. And I mean impossible. She would perform full surgical procedures without anesthesia, without sterilization, using nothing but rusty knives and broken bottles. Witnesses reported seeing her materialize organs out of thin air, reaching into bodies without making incisions, extracting tumors with her bare hands. Most scientists would have dismissed this as superstition, stage magic, mass hallucination. But Dr. Grinberg didn't dismiss it. He documented it. He studied it. And what he found would lead him to develop a theory so revolutionary, so threatening to our understanding of reality, that some believe it's the reason he disappeared. Dr. Grinberg called his discovery the Syntergic Theory. And to understand why this theory was so dangerous, you need to understand what it actually says. According to Grinberg, reality as we know it, everything you see, touch, hear, taste, smell, none of it actually exists in the way you think it does. What we perceive as solid matter, as the physical world around us, is actually our brain's interpretation of something far more fundamental. Something he called the lattice. The lattice is described as a pre-physical, informational structure that permeates all of space-time. It's not matter. It's not energy. It's pure consciousness in its raw form. Think of it like the source code of reality, the matrix before it's rendered. And here's the shocking part. Your brain doesn't receive information from this lattice. Your brain distorts it. Let me explain. When you look at a tree, you think you're seeing a tree that exists independently out there in the world. But according to Grinberg, what's actually happening is that your brain's neural field is interacting with the lattice, creating interference patterns, and those patterns are what you experience as a tree. The tree doesn't exist until your consciousness creates it from the raw information in the lattice. Reality, in other words, is not something you observe. It's something you generate. We're not living in reality. We're creating it, moment by moment, through the interaction between our neural fields and this universal consciousness field. Sound crazy? Here's where it gets scientific. Grinberg's theory was heavily based on physicist David Bohm's implicate order theory, which proposes that space is a holographic sea of infinite potential. What we see as the physical universe is just the explicate order, the unfolded version of a much deeper implicate order that contains all information, all possibilities, all of existence in every single point of space. The lattice, according to Grinberg, contains all the information of the entire universe at every single point. It's holographic, which means theoretically, if you could learn to properly interface with it, you could access information from anywhere in space and time. You could see distant galaxies. You could perceive the thoughts of someone on the other side of the planet. You could, in theory, reprogram reality itself. And that's exactly what Dr. Grinberg set out to prove. In 1994, Dr. Grinberg published what would become his most famous and most controversial paper, the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paradox in the brain, the transferred potential. The experiment was simple, but its implications were world-shattering. Dr. Grinberg took pairs of subjects and had them meditate together in the same room until they reported feeling connected. Then he separated them into two different rooms, completely isolated from each other. Both were hooked up to EEG machines, measuring their brainwave activity. Then he did something interesting. He flashed a series of lights at one person, stimulating their visual cortex and creating measurable electrical activity in their brain. The question was, would anything happen in the other person's brain? According to conventional neuroscience, the answer should be no. The two brains were physically separated. No electromagnetic signals could pass between them. There was no mechanism for communication. But that's not what happened. When the lights flashed in front of Subject A, creating specific evoked potentials in their brain, Subject B, sitting in a completely different room with no knowledge of the flashes, showed corresponding patterns in their brain at the exact same moment. The statistical correlation was undeniable. Their brains were communicating through something that transcended physical space. Dr. Grinberg called these transferred potentials. Other scientists who replicated his experiments called it proof of non-local consciousness. The CIA called it a national security threat. But here's what the public doesn't know. Here's what was buried in Dr. Grinberg's private notes. Notes that were seized after his disappearance and have never been fully released. The transferred potential experiments were just the beginning. According to sources close to the laboratory, in the final weeks before his disappearance, Dr. Grinberg had moved beyond simple brain-to-brain correlation. He had developed a protocol, a specific meditation and training technique that didn't just allow two brains to share information. It allowed trained subjects to directly manipulate the lattice itself. In his final experiment, the one he never published, the one that may have sealed his fate, Dr. Grinberg reportedly achieved what he called syntergic coherence. For exactly 3 minutes and 42 seconds, a subject's brainwave patterns synchronized so perfectly with the lattice that, according to witnesses, physical objects in the room began to behave strangely. A pen levitated, a clock ran backwards, and the subject, when brought out of the meditative state, reported seeing something impossible. They reported seeing reality as pixelated, as code, as a grid of information underlying everything. They had seen the source code of the Matrix, and they had learned how to edit it. 3 weeks later, Dr. Grinberg disappeared. The official story is murky. On December 8, 1994, Dr. Grinberg was scheduled to give a lecture. He never showed up. His wife, Teresa, reported him missing. But here's where things get strange. She reported him missing, and then immediately left the country. She flew to the United States and has never returned to Mexico. Police found Dr. Grinberg's car abandoned at Mexico City International Airport, but there was no record of him boarding any flight. No witnesses, no security footage, nothing. It's as if he drove to the airport and vanished into thin air. For years, the case went cold, but then a witness came forward. An employee at a small gas station in Boulder, Colorado, claimed that a man matching Dr. Grinberg's description was brought into the station by 2 men in suits. The man looked drugged, disoriented, and was loaded into a small private plane. Boulder, Colorado. Why is that location significant? Because Boulder is home to multiple CIA black site facilities. Because Boulder is where the government conducts its most classified neurological research. And because in 2017, when the CIA released its declassified Stargate program documents, Dr. Grinberg's research appeared 3 times, all referencing programs operating out of facilities in Colorado. The Stargate program, for those who don't know, was the U.S. military's secret unit dedicated to investigating psychic phenomena for intelligence applications. Remote viewing, telepathy, mind control. The program officially ended in 1995, just months after Dr. Grinberg disappeared. But we know that's not true. We know it just went deeper underground. And here's the smoking gun. In the declassified documents, there are specific references to something called the Mexican Syntergic Integration Protocol, a direct reference to Dr. Grinberg's work. The documents are heavily redacted, but what remains makes it clear. The CIA was not just aware of his research. They were actively trying to weaponize it. Think about what that means. If Dr. Grinberg was right, if consciousness can directly manipulate the fundamental information structure of reality, then whoever controls that technology controls reality itself. They could read minds from anywhere on Earth. They could potentially alter physical matter. They could, in the hands of the wrong people, become gods. So what happened to Dr. Grinberg? Here are the theories. Theory 1. He's dead. Murdered by intelligence agencies who saw his research as too dangerous to allow to exist. Theory 2. He's alive, being held in a classified facility, forced to continue his research under military supervision. His discoveries weaponized for purposes we can only imagine. Believe third theory. A theory that's been whispered about in certain circles but never spoken aloud. What if the final experiment worked too well? What if Dr. Grinberg achieved complete syntergic coherence? What if, in that moment, he didn't just see the code of reality, he stepped outside of it? What if Jacobo Grinberg didn't disappear from our world because he transcended it? Here's what we know for certain. Dr. Jacobo Grinberg was a legitimate scientist, conducting legitimate research at one of Mexico's most prestigious institutions. His experiments on transferred potentials have been replicated by other researchers, including Fred Thayheld and Charles Tart at UC Davis. The statistical evidence for non-local consciousness, for brain-to-brain communication outside of space and time, is real. We know that the CIA had documents on his work. We know that his research directly relates to the Stargate program's objectives. We know that he disappeared without a trace at the exact moment his research was reaching its most revolutionary conclusions. And we know that to this day, 30 years later, no one has been able to fully continue his work. His laboratory was shut down. His notes were seized. His colleagues were warned not to speak about the experiments. And his wife, the one person who might know what really happened, has remained silent in the United States for 3 decades. But here's the question I want to leave you with. If Dr. Grinberg was right, if reality truly is a construct created by the interaction between our consciousness and a fundamental information field, then what does that make us? Are we observers trapped in a pre-existing universe? Or are we the creators? Divine consciousness experiencing itself through the illusion of separation. And if reality can be manipulated, if the code can be hacked, then who's controlling it now? Is it us? Is it governments with classified technology decades beyond what we can imagine? Or is it something else entirely? Something we've never even considered. Dr. Grinberg used to say that the difference between what we call space and what we call matter is just a difference in complexity. Matter is the part of the information field that our brains can decode. Space, what we perceive as emptiness, is actually information so complex, so dense, that our brains can't process it. We see it as nothing because we're not advanced enough to see what it really is. So when you look at the empty space around you, remember, it's not empty. It's full of information you can't decode. Yet, and somewhere out there, whether in a classified facility or in a dimension beyond our perception, Dr. Jacobo Grinberg might have learned how to decode it all. The question is, what did he find when he finally saw reality for what it truly is? And more importantly, are we ready to know? If you found this story as disturbing as I did, subscribe to the Phantom Files, because the truth isn't just out there. The truth is right here, hidden in the space between what we can see and what we're not allowed to know. And maybe, just maybe, Dr. Grinberg is still out there, trying to send us a message through the lattice.